Hello, my name is Kim Kessler, and I'm a Global Wellness Day Ambassador. And I'm so excited to introduce somebody so near and dear to my heart, Susan Miller, the most internationally recognized astrologer in the world. She's the founder of AstrologyZone and has over 300 million page views a month on AstrologyZone, which was founded 20 years ago, coincidentally on my birthday, December 14th. And she also is the author of 12 astrology books, and she contributes monthly to 9 magazines around the world. And here she is to talk about the year 2020, which has been such an unusual year so far. And I'm sure she'll provide much insight and awareness for us on what's going on and what we can expect over the next year. So thank you so much, Susan. We're excited for your talk.
Hello. Thank you for joining me today on your weekend. I think we're all asking the same question. How long is the pandemic going to last? What is our outlook economically? And what comes next? You know, this year we were to have 5 eclipses, but if you count the one in December 24th, 25th, depending on your time zone, that's 6 eclipses. Let's talk about eclipses first. They always ask us to move to a new place if they touch the degrees of the planets in our own chart. If they don't, the effect is mild. If they do, it's strong. But all eclipses shine a brilliant light of truth, especially the full moon eclipses. They give you information and they bring closure. We had one December 24th, January 10th, then just recently, June 5th, which was a very tough time for all of us to see George Floyd go through what he had to before he died was just horrific. And it changed us. Now we have another eclipse coming, June 21st, right on the summer solstice. And I'll get back to that in a minute. Then we have another one on the 4th of July, and then later in the year on November 30th and on December 14th. Those are mild compared to the ones we have now. Now, a new moon is always I'll start that again. A solar eclipse is always a new moon, but it's super strong. A lunar eclipse is always a full moon, but we're 3 full moons rolled into one. The one we just had 2 weeks ago was Sagittarius, in Sagittarius. So Sagittarians, Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces, especially those born around the 7th of the month, we're really feeling that one quite a bit. The next one is going to give opportunity, because that's what new moons do. It's usually something new and out of the blue. And this one I'm kind of excited about because it falls at 0 degrees of a cardinal sign. What's a cardinal sign? Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. Those are the cardinal signs said to be very energetic and quite pioneering. But if you're at a 0 or 1 degree of one of those signs, like the Cancers are born June 21st, there's definitely big change, new beginning. The gates are opening for you. And this one is much more friendly than the other one. The last one is on the 4th of July, and that is our nation's birthday. So we don't know what it will be, but there'll be something else we're not dealing with now. You know, as society or as individuals, sometimes information is withheld from us, or sometimes we ignore it, or we just don't see it, or we assume something else. And an eclipse comes and it gets us on track. Remember, they are purveyors of truth, so we wake up, we get information. Now, with the coronavirus, I don't want to forget to say this. It's very important not to become complacent, not to think, oh, it's summer. I've been locked in the house since March. I'm tired of all this. To me, it seems this virus has an intelligence, and it's hoping that you will get complacent and that you will give up on your mask and your social distancing. Its job is to infect as many people as possible, just like it was the plague way back in England in the end of the 1500s and early 1600s. You need to keep your guard up because there was a perfect storm going on with this particular year. You had all these eclipses, but you also had the meeting of Jupiter and Pluto. That's usually cause for celebration. It's usually a wonderful pairing. Pluto rules masses of people. It rules governments. It rules financial prosperity. And Jupiter is the giver of gifts and luck, but is also the planet that expands everything it touches. I thought this year would be a big financial year for most people, that they would do big deals and have a happy year, and that this year would be a peak year. It would be hard to match that level next year. I never expected the trillions of dollars our government has been giving people, because they have to keep everyone alive. These are the biggest packages our country has ever had to give people, but it is deficit spending, and eventually we'll have to pay it back. Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, was on television, and he said, yeah, we're going to pay it back. He said, I can lend this to the executive branch, but I can't just print money in the basement. We have to pay it back. And that will take 12 years, he felt. I believe he was on 60 Minutes, and that's where I saw him. And this year, Jupiter is a little drunk. He's happy to see his friend Pluto. They haven't met like this for 13 years. And as I said, it's usually a very happy occasion. And Jupiter says to Pluto, what would you like me to expand? I didn't know that Pluto rules viruses and bacteria. Pluto said, would you help me spread this virus? Oh, sure, I'll help you. Jupiter, what are you thinking? Jupiter and Pluto were together April 4th, and you started to feel their proximity already in March, when most of us closed down. Now it's meeting again in June, but they're retrograde. And when a planet retrogrades, it sleeps, it's tired. So the effect is weaker, but there's still outbreaks. And you're seeing that in southern and western parts of our country. They will meet again November 12th, and they're going to be strong and rested when they do. And you're going to start seeing that second wave at the end of September or early October. Actually, Pluto goes direct October 4th. Jupiter goes direct September 12th, but I think October's the month we have to be so careful, and we may have to go back home again. But being back home has its charms and benefits. going to tell you a little story that was so inspirational, and it's true. I saw it on the History Channel. Back in the late 1500s, there was a couple who had a newborn baby boy. And they were in England, they were in London, and they heard the plague was coming back. Back then, they didn't know what was causing the Black Plague, the bubonic plague. So the scientists couldn't stop it because they didn't know what was causing it to begin with. It was later, much, much later, found that it was caused by gnats on the hair of rats, fleas on the hair of rats. Well, we've put that aside. This couple bought food. They filled their house. They locked their doors. They pulled down the shades. They had already lost 2 of their children in previous bouts of the plague. They had a newborn baby boy, little William. They were determined to keep him alive. They were successful. He grew up to be William Shakespeare. There's a part 2 to this story. William is very talented with writing, as we know. I did his chart. He has all these planets in Gemini. And if you have Gemini planets or Virgo planets, possibly Sagittarius planets, you have talent in writing. Real talent. So anyway, he starts to write plays and he starts to produce them in London. And he's having so much fun with it. He's loving it. He's loving seeing the audience react to his work. He's enjoying seeing, the whole creative process of helping to choose the actors, the costumes, everything. He even gets his own theater, the Globe Theater, which is in the round, in open air. But just like today, the government found that whenever people cloistered together, there was a terrible outbreak. So the government in England, in London, said, that's it, we're closing the theaters. So now Shakespeare had to go home, and he thought, well, I can't produce plays. I guess I better write. In the year, 1 year, between 1605 and 1606, he wrote Antony and Cleopatra, King Lear, and my favorite, Macbeth. Doesn't that inspire you? You see, we have to use our time in quarantine productively, like Shakespeare did. So I think that's a wonderful story, and it's real, and you can go to history.com and take a look. Just do a search on the Black Plague. So I think when Jupiter and Pluto separate enough, they will end our obsession with it. And that happens at the end of the year, near Christmas, but they fully separate, I like 10 degrees. And these planets move very, very slowly. And that happens by January 12th. So, and I know this makes no sense. January is a very cold month, no matter where you go in the North Hemisphere. But there seems to be some kind of treatment that's working by then. I don't know if it's a vaccine or if they're just able to lower the effects of the virus, but I feel that this will end by then. And I wrote that essay on the cover, my homepage, I should say, of AstrologyZone. It's called the Coronavirus Outlook. And take a look at it. I wrote it in March. And I know I have to trust my math. Astrology is the study of mathematical cycles, some which repeat in our life and some that never will again. Now, at the same time Jupiter and Pluto were meeting, Uranus has recently entered Taurus. Taurus is a sign of money. It's also the sign of food. Think of the bull helping the farmer with the land, sowing the seeds so that we would have a crop. And I said, well, there's going to be some unusual developments with food. Maybe we'll be very careful about hormones and GMOs, and we'll be really looking at food, but it'll be totally unexpected what comes up. And also our money supply. There'll be some real changes, but I guess it's digital currency, a cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. I was guessing. With Uranus, you never know. I never expected in America to have food shortages. They're saying to us that eventually we may have to ration food, meat particularly, because the workers are getting sick in the meatpacking plants. Now, this ties in with planets going into Aquarius. It's, all right, stay with me on this, because there's, like I said, there was a lot going on at the same time, and each planet was working to create the new world we have now. Saturn has just entered Aquarius for a short time. It went in on March 20th. It's leaving July 1st. And we're getting a little preview of what Saturn in Aquarius is like. And Jupiter will go into Aquarius permanently at the end of the year. Jupiter will go in for approximately a year. He goes into Pisces for a little while, but then retreats back. Saturn will stay in for 2.5 years. Saturn is the sign of vegetarianism, plant-based food. So the universe seems to have this plan for us. So and Aquarius likes to be alone. They like to have friends, and they like to work on humanitarian activities. But their ruling planet, Uranus, likes to be different from the other planets. He doesn't march around the sun the way the other ones do. He spins on his belly. He has an erratic orbit. There's nothing normal about Uranus. And that's what makes Aquarius so lovable. You can never predict what they'll do, but they have a big heart. And this is a sign that helps people in groups. Pisces, the next sign, tends to help one-on-one, people they know or hear about. But Aquarius organizes groups. I feel next year the government will be tapped out. They won't have any more money to print in the basement. It will be people helping people. And you will see it on a grand scale. Just recently, I saw a news report, and you probably saw it too, where the farmers were letting their crops die in the fields because the one farmer said, I have 3 miles of crops. One is for supermarkets. That's doing great. One is for hotels. Nobody's buying. One is for restaurants. Nobody's buying. I cannot afford to pick those crops. I have to let those tomatoes, potatoes, lettuce, carrots, everything I'm growing, wither and die. Well, there was a man sitting on a couch just like me somewhere else, watching the same report, saying, this is terrible. We've all seen the food bank lines, the very long lines with people needing food. They're hungry, and this is terrible. They've lost their jobs. More than 44 million people have lost their jobs. There was another job report last week where they added another million. He said, wow, I own a trucking company. So he sent out email to everybody he knew. If I could get the food, would you drive the truck, one of my trucks, to a poor neighborhood? I'll talk to FEMA. I'll find out where it's needed. Everybody said yes. But then he realized, I have to pay the farmers for the food. So he sent out more email to more people, different people. He got all the money he needed. He paid the farmer for all the produce and also for the milk that was also being discarded. And about 10 days ago, all the trucks arrived in the poor neighborhoods with the food. And this is an example of what's coming. People helping people. And I think this will draw us all together. We're all the same inside. Now, what happened with Mr. Floyd was at the eclipse in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is the sign of justice. It's not law and order the way Scorpio rules. It's more just fairness. It rules the courts. It's also a sign that rules philosophers and philosophies. And when we saw that horrible incident, everyone said that's not right. And change has happened so quickly. Now, there's something I want everyone to know about an eclipse. And I wrote an essay on the front page of AstrologyZone. Go on your laptop, it's easier. You'll find it on the left-hand side. You have to scroll a little bit down and you see all my essays. And it's Eclipses, a guide to how to deal with them. When you're experiencing an eclipse, it's like this. You're walking from one edge of the bank across the ravine to the other side. But the bridge is a little rickety. And you're wondering, is this bridge going to hold up? I need to get to the other side. And it's creaking. It's made out of wood and it's swaying. You look down, it goes very far down. There's a creek there with rushing water, big rocks. It's a little frightening. But you get to the other side and you're feeling, wow, I did it. And you turn and you look over your shoulder and that bridge falls into the water. With an eclipse, there is no way back to the way things were before. Now, in the case of Mr. Floyd, that's a good thing. We're happy to hear that. We are going to create real change. But in some cases, it's not as happy. If you lose your job, or if your boyfriend or girlfriend breaks up with you. Well, what I always say, keep your dignity. Don't beg that person like your boss, please don't fire me, please keep me. Because once the eclipse has spoken, there's no going back to the way things were. The only way is forward. You can't go back. Now, let's say you don't like the way things are. Let's say you feel that it's not quite to your liking. And you can always change again up ahead on the road. All eclipses have 2 acts. You can't pronounce an eclipse a bad one until you get to the 2nd act and see what happens. So if you lost your job, for example, as some of my friends have, you are probably moving to a much better place. I realize that the Cancers are the ones that have been in the news the most, although Capricorn has too. Aries and Libra to a degree, but it's the Cancer Capricorns that are really out there. And you have a real chance to get a better job. And you say, well, wait a minute, we're in the middle of a pandemic. How am I going to find a better job? Your reputation will get you that better job. My best friend who lost her job has 3 offers on the table 10 days later. And they're all very exciting. The universe moves towards strength. If your company was having a hard time, that's possibly why you lost your job. We always think only bad things happen if we do something wrong, but that's not necessarily true. No. it's almost never the case. It's other dynamic things going on. So don't let it hurt your self-esteem. You go out there and you get it. Now, the Cancers in particular have Mars in the 10th house of honors, awards, achievement, fame. And something unusual is happening this year. Usually Mars stays in a sign 6 weeks because it's like having 20 cups of coffee when Mars is in a certain house. It's so energized. This time Mars is staying in Aries for 6 months until January 6th. That means Cancer has Mars in the house of fame for 6 months. And they have such opportunity to get ahead. Now for Taurus, it's going to be working on a secret project that you can't tell people about, and you don't want prying eyes looking over your shoulder. You may have to really be quiet about what you're working on, and it'll probably come out early January. For a Gemini, you're doing something with groups and friends, possibly a charitable effort. For Cancer, well, you know it's honors, awards, achievement, fame. You're going higher, higher, higher. With Leo, something with an international relationship. In days when we don't have a virus, it might mean you would travel a lot. But we're not sure if we can travel a lot yet. But the other parts of that house are higher education and academia. It's higher education. So going back for your MBA or your advanced degree or your PhD is definitely a possibility for the Leos. For Virgo and Pisces, they're going to undergo a lot of expenses. Money is going out, but it's probably something you know about, and you are going to invest maybe in your business or yourself. And you probably know what it is, and usually a lifestyle change causes that. I see I'm getting very close to the end of my talk. Libra, your focus is on your partner, whether it's in business or in love, your spouse or person you're living with, someone you're serious about. If you're a Scorpio, you're going to be working hard. You do not worry. Jobs are coming to you. If you need a side job besides your day job, it comes to you. You'll be working, but it's a good thing. Sag, you're lucking out because it's love, love, love. You could fall in love this second half of the year. If you're a Capricorn, you're focused on the home. You're practically obsessed with it, but it could be that you're helping your parents because parents are in the same house as home and where your physical residence is. Home, property, parents. Aquarius, it has to do with writing, communicating. You may start a podcast. Something's going on, a new app, a screenplay, a book. Wonderful. And Pisces, I know you're spending money, but I think you know about it already. I think it could be deliberate. Maybe you're getting married next year or having a baby this year. These are all changes that require a little spending, a lot of spending sometimes. Well, that's my picture of the second half of this year. I hope you enjoyed this. And I know I'm coming to the end now of my talk. So I am so happy to have been invited. Thank you, all of you, and Kim Kessler for asking me to come. And it's such a rich program with so much to think about. So if you forgot anything I said, it's on AstrologyZone.com. I also sell a calendar where you can see your best days for your interviews or any big initiations you have, and you'll see it right on the front page. And I also have an app, Daily Horoscope, Astrology Zone by Susan Miller. It's much more than daily horoscopes. It's my essays, it's everything. You take a look, it's free, and then you can upgrade for $5 a month, but you don't have to. Get the free one. It's secure and no advertising. Well, it's time for your next speaker now. This is Susan Miller saying goodbye for now. I hope I see you again soon.